I do wonder if, that point of having footage against a USA, a Canada, a Mexico, even Costa Rica, I would put in there as well. Having this recent footage, to sort of go off and prepare for these teams in their respective groups, whether it's A or B. Does that present a dark horse scenario maybe for us to talk a little bit about? And I'm gonna pitch that to both of you. Do you have a dark horse in amongst these 8 teams, a team that's gonna maybe not shock, but give us some pleasant surprises along the way of this tournament? Lisa, who are you going with?
I'm going with Haiti. This is a team that, no, I'm not going to say they're going to go out and beat the U.S. by 5-0, but Haiti is a team that we saw throughout the qualifiers. They had a 44 goal differential. They had so many different players scoring those goals, 13 different players. And they were a team that didn't sit back and defend in that low block. They had incredible defense, 0 goals against throughout the qualifiers, but they were able to expose their opponents, get in behind, stretch back lines, and get shots on goal and score a lot of goals throughout those qualifiers. So this is a Haiti team that isn't afraid, right? We've talked about that. And Lori mentions that all the time. People aren't scared to play the United States anymore. And in a group with USA and Mexico, these are teams that can be intimidating and can intimidate other nations. But Haiti is a team that has a lot of the same players that we've seen in years past. They're a team that has played against the United States historically in the Tokyo Olympic qualifiers. They held the United States scoreless for 60, 70 minutes. And I'm not entirely remembering that correctly, but they are a team that knows how to play against the United States, play it defensively, and then can also score goals. So my dark horse is Haiti. No, I don't think they're going to come out as number 1 in the group, but they're a team that could get through and fill up one of those 4 World Cup qualifying spots. I'm excited to watch Haiti.
But I also should say, though, if I was playing defense against some of these strikers we have on this side, Matthew and Sophia Smith, I'd be a bit scared. Yes. That doesn't mean these people have good game plans. I'm just saying, they're good. So, and listen, I'm going to go with Jamaica. They're not actually a dark horse necessarily because I've been to the World Cup, right? And they have experience at that level. However, I do think that they, across the board, you look at Sydney Schneider, who's with Kansas City, current goalkeeper. You have Jody Brown, who plays at FSU. You have Bunny Shaw, who's with Man City now. I mean, listen, there's some players that are some real difference makers, and you have some good players in key spots that can win you games, right? You have a solid goalkeeper. You have, and those are just naming a few, right? I mean, there's others across the board as well. But I like this team. I think that they're going to present some problems for a lot of the teams, just in terms of their ability to be able to be dynamic in different ways. And so I think that is the one that I'm looking towards. And they have a new coach, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. Lauren Donaldson just taking over. What kind of energy does that bring into the camp? How quickly, again, can they come together? What are they doing in the short amount of time that's going to be like, hell yeah, here we go. Because sometimes, it could go either way with coaches, right? You could be like, we're still getting used to this. We're not really sure. You're trying to mix some things up. Or it could really galvanize a group and then all of a sudden you come to life in a way that you haven't seen a team come to life for a while. So on another level. And it does feel like this is a stepping point. Could be a really exciting time right now for Jamaica. So that's who I'm going with. Sandra, who you got?
I like those two. Listen, I could piggyback on either of those. I was very impressed with Haiti and what they did during their qualifying stage to get to this point. I've been impressed with Jamaica to just be, to find the success that they have been able to find on the pitch with, quite frankly, without the infrastructure around them. I think says a lot about that team. They're a team that has a ton of, strong, talented individual pieces. And I think I think we can all agree that, we might be speaking about them a little differently if they just had the right and appropriate infrastructure and support around them. I mean, and you can look at each individual line and sort of see all of these different, individual talented pieces. Whether you have,
Mhm.
somebody like a Bunny Shaw who's is always going to be targeted, and
Yeah.
involved in their attack, but even from their backline all the way up top, a number of goalkeepers that can get in there and really make some noise. Sydney Schneider was someone who was really broke out for them and stood out for them in the previous cycle, and has spent time in NWSL now. But the Swabbies, Chantel, Allison Swabby is
Yeah.
out there in the back line, and in the middle with somebody like a Drew Spence or Vanessa Lund. That's a name that's familiar with folks. Is someone who plays in
Mhm.
NWSL. So there's a ton of individual talented players here, and you just have to imagine that I would have loved for this team to have been able to have had some final prep matches right
Yeah.
ahead of this CONCACAF qualifier, just for their own um sake of just saying, like, this is what it feels like to play with each other again before
Mhm.
going into such a big tournament. So there's a part of me that almost like is upset that we have to talk about them in this capacity
Yeah.
as a dark horse,
Mhm.
because this is the team that kind of shocked everybody a little bit in the previous qualifier and punched their ticket through to the 2019 World Cup. So we're talking about a team that has World Cup experience now, and we're still talking about them in a similar lens that we did in the previous cycle. It's incredible. It could be very discouraging when you're sort of doing the work in this space, sort of talk about this, and you're like, geez, we're
Mhm.
still talking
Yeah.
about this team, even though they made these strides. We're still talking about them in this similar lens. So my hope is that that maybe they do continue to sort of ride that wave of momentum that they've been doing since the previous cycle, and be able to clinch a spot. But it's a tough group that
Yeah.
they're in with the
Yeah.
number one ranked United States, and the host favorites in Mexico. And I think maybe there's even an argument to be made for Mexico to try to pitch them as a certain dark horse. I think they're also viewed as part of the big three or favorites to clinch one of these 4 World Cup spots, and I think they'll do it. But I think you can add another layer of ambition for the Mexican team as well, and that maybe you don't want to just challenge yourself to qualify for the World Cup, but there's an Olympic spot
Yeah.
on the line, there's
Yep.
a Gold Cup spot on the line. You're the hosts.
Yeah.
Maybe you actually want to win this competition. Maybe it's not enough to just say, okay, we've achieved our goal of getting back to the World Cup, because they got bounced
Yeah.
in their previous qualifiers. So there's, I think, an added layer of motivation, and maybe some dark horse isms that I'm looking for in Mexico to try to achieve as well in this tournament. But we'll see. I'm just here for the ride. I want to see
I
it all from the
appreciate.
table.
Oh, sorry, Sandra. I was just saying too. I appreciate that look in terms of Mexico and potentially really pushing and going for it and winning. I mean, obviously we saw the news today, and we were talking about it offline about the national team going to play Angel City. So
Mhm.
there's momentum behind this team, right? There's like a aggression to continue to build and not be complacent and by any means. So I mean, I agree completely with you, and I think that's a good take.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just, again, like I said, I'm just here for the ride. I'm excited to see it all come to fruition. I
Certainly.
can't believe it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
It's here. It's finally here, everybody. It's the next phase to confirm things for 2023 World Cup. And of course, we're going to be here throughout the entire Concacaf W Championship. You can watch all of the games on Paramount Plus. We're going to have all kinds of episodes for you previewing and recapping these matches on Attacking Third. You can catch all kinds of Concacaf W Championship content on CBSSports.com. And Lori, Lisa, and I will be covering all the games. Again, make sure you put us into your content calendar, because we're going to have live recaps for all the United States women's national team matches. Subscribe to us on YouTube so that you never miss a show. Thank you all so much for joining us today